Good morning, boys and girls. Today I want to discuss what to do with old equipment. It's been about 2.5 months since all this fun stuff showed up at my place. For those who don't know about where I work from, you can find more detail on my blog at www.automationprimer.com. Suffice it to say, it's an old house built in 1962. After a tornado took out my commercial space in 2020, I bought this property to use as an office and shop space. I've been here almost 5 years now. In March, all this was brought here from Indiana in a big truck. The largest items are these training carts. I don't know what they weigh, but they're hard to even push around. The ramps that were used to unload them are also here in this shed or garage, and they appear to be custom made for the carts. You can see that the carts have a PLC5, a SLC 500, and ControlLogix rack mounted to them, along with a panel view HMI, 32 lights, 32 switches wired to various PLCs, and several other control components. There are also several more PLC5, ControlLogix, and SLC racks in boxes, along with some extra processors and cards. All of the processors are quite old, PLC 520s, 560s, ControlLogix L55s, and SLC 504s. There are DeviceNet and ControlNet cards and assorted flex and armor block components, lots of assorted connecting cables and taps. There are also boxes of small components I haven't even gone through yet. These troubleshooting consoles are pretty cool. They have terminals that connect the sockets, sensors, and other components to internally mounted 24-volt AC and 24-volt DC power supplies. And there are also toolboxes with meters, electronic components, and relays. As you might be able to tell, this is training equipment. It's been used since the 1990s and upgraded a few times since then. My immediate problem is that it's all in the way, filling my fabrication shop and my outside woodworking shed. I'm building a large 25 by 26 metal building with a roll-up door right here just outside my entry doors, mostly to store all of this excess equipment and shipping boxes. So all this brings me to the point of this video. What do you do when you have a bunch of old or surplus equipment like this? You know it's worth something. You can see prices at places like eBay and Radwell. So yesterday, the Radwell rep came to visit me here at my facility, and he looked at everything. And of course, his job is mostly to sell Radwell components, PLC equipment. He didn't know a whole lot about all the technical side of it. He had worked for Fastenal previously, but he did know how Radwell worked. And part of the way they work, and this was told to me by Jeff Buck at Automation NTH, he said they will ship you a Gaylord box, which is, I believe, 4 by 4 by 4, and you fill it full of stuff and you send it to them, and they will price it and they will send you whatever it's worth. And they can kind of pre-qualify that a little bit. They will get you to send them a list and they'll tell you what they think it's worth, and then they'll kind of send you something close to that. And I learned more from Hunter Lewis at Radwell. He told me that, for instance, they try to keep things on the shelf for maybe 3 months and then turn it over. It doesn't make them any money, obviously, if it's sitting on a shelf. So they take pictures of it and they post it online and they try to sell it. And if it doesn't sell, they even throw a lot of stuff away. So it's possible to maybe even trade some of this stuff. I'm still waiting for response from somebody at Radwell to talk to them about how that might work, because I could use other things instead of this. Some other things to consider if you decide to sell this stuff yourself. Do you want to do a lot price like the Gaylord boxes and just say, this is what I've got in general, here's a list of it, give me a price for all of it? Or do you want to break it down and sell it as individual components? And then that kind of could be, is that a whole PLC5 with a rack? Or is that the individual cards and everything off of the, take them all out of the rack, clean them up, and sell them that way? Obviously, you make more by selling individual components, even to Radwell. And Hunter confirmed that. Where would you sell things like this? You could set up an online shop. Of course, people have eBay stores. They have Amazon stores. And in my case, I even have a self-hosted website. I could take pictures of things and list them, put a price on there. But then I'm turning myself into a kind of a Radwell. And I really don't have time for that. Another option would be go make individual sales calls to local plants. Talk to people, find people, for instance, that have SLCs and PLC5s or who might have ControlLogix. And like I said, the processors are pretty old. I don't think people are looking for L55s anymore, but maybe they could use the rest of the rack and the individual cards. So I'm considering that, talking to people here in Tennessee. I'm going to be talking to schools right across the state. I know where all the TCAT centers are, and these carts are pretty cool from that standpoint. They do have all those switches and lights and things connected to PLCs. Might get a chance to rebuild the carts as trainers for either individual plants or schools. I do that anyway. I rebuild equipment and I make new equipment like this stuff behind me. I could use some myself. I would like to have maybe one of the carts and put newer stuff on it, at least maybe an L70 series ControlLogix. Maybe do a sacrilegious thing like put Siemens on the same cart and then use it for training or use it as a mobile workstation in my shop. So my shop has a nice epoxy floor and lots of tools, things like that. So a cart like this could be useful. But in any case, this is a long-term problem for me. And so my next step after I get it in this little building is to inventory it. And that is probably going to take months. I can't sit down and do it all at once, but maybe inventory the big stuff first, get a list of the big cards and things, and then figure out what to do with it. This is also complicated by the fact that I do not strictly own this equipment. This is part of an automation training purchase when they bought automation training in the US. And the owner of automation training has told me I can sell it. And obviously getting more makes more for him and makes more for me. But I haven't really sat down and priced all this. My first step is just to get it stored and get all these little folding tables that I've had from my old shop set up in this new 25 by 26 foot building, and then lay everything out and inventory it and put it on nice shelves where we know what's there and where it is. And then the next step is figure out how much it's worth and go talk to people about it. But that's an interesting dilemma. I'll tell you a little story about ABD. Some of you have followed my blog and some of my videos. An American Beverage Depot down in Miami, they have beverage making equipment. Some of them are Tetra Pak fillers. And Juan Pablo, the owner of the plant, mentioned one time that he could buy an entire line. He went up to Canada and bought a Campbell's soup boxing line. I guess they were getting rid of it, and he bought a Tetra Pak line, and just one component out of that line that he was able to tear off of the equipment paid for the entire line. So if he would have gone to Tetra Pak and bought this particular mechanical piece of equipment, he would have paid about the same as the entire line cost. And so he did get some other things out of it, I think some motors and maybe conveyors, things like that, and actually threw a lot of the rest of it away. And from what I've heard, there are plants that do that. So there's used equipment everywhere. I would not mind buying some used equipment. I really need some pneumatic equipment and individual processors. So I may be in the market for some things, but until then, I'm also going to be in the sales business for used equipment myself. I think I listed things out pretty well, what your options might be if you're doing this yourself. If you're selling used stuff, a lot of this is old. There may even be some PLC 2s in there somewhere, but PLC 5s, SLC 500s, 504s, mostly at least 10 of those, maybe 15, at least 10 and maybe 15 PLC 5s, old computers. I want to say Windows 7 or even XP with software on them. So a lot of options here. If anybody's interested, hit me up. I am at www.automationllc.com, and you can find me, you can send me an email at flam@automationllc.com. Thank you very much for listening to this ramble.